What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More. I'm your host, Matt, and I'm joined once again this week by Sage. Sage, welcome back for the fifth time, I think, because I think we've done like a draft. We did Mean Girls, we did Anastasia, maybe did another draft.
There was another one in there. Yeah,
something else
roughly.
Yes. But Sage is joining me this week because we both saw the national tour of Suffs this past week. And so the Proshot just aired on PBS Great Performances on Friday, the 8th, and it's available through July 31st. So we will be talking spoilers about the show. So if you don't want to be spoiled for these events that happened between 1913 and 1920, you can go watch the Proshot for free on PBS Great Performances through the end of July. And if you subscribe and sign up and donate to PBS for, I think it's $60 a year, you have access to it for much longer. So, dude, my brain is fried tonight. I'm not restarting the intro though. Again,
we're both working.
We're not going to go round three. We're on a tight schedule. It's a school night. Okay.
Since you were homeschooled, did you also have to start school early in the day? Was that a rule?
We didn't need to, but I always got up early, and so I could get done early. So that was always my move. I would get up at 5 or 6 and just go right into it. So then I'm done by 1.
Oh shit! I was thinking that you guys were just chilling out. Yeah, no. I have the inability.
Even to this day, I think the latest I have slept in has been 7:30.
I was gonna say it's usually my body's about 7:30, but one time there was a night that we went out, and I think I woke up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, at maybe, and I was like, wow, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yeah, it's my whole day is wasted.
I was like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, well, that usually I wake up at 5 and have to pee, and then I'm even on the weekends, I'm like, if I go back to sleep now, I'm just wasting precious hours that I could be doing stuff. So this morning I woke up at 5 and I made this week's coffee videos and spent way more time than I needed to on it because I was up at 5, so I could. But Suffs, for those of you who are not familiar, we're going to be talking the show as a whole, the tour, and then I will give a couple thoughts on the Proshot because I don't think, Sage, you didn't get a chance to watch the Proshot because it is graduation season. I had no graduations to go to this year, and it was wonderful.
I've got cousins out the wazoo.
All my cousins are older, and I did have a cousin's kid that graduated, but I did not go to that.
Did you send a letter? A card?
No. I was invited. I didn't get told about it.
Oh, so if you're not invited, then that's fine. Yeah, that's fabulous, actually.
That's my reason. So I'm actually don't invite me to things. I pretend I don't see the Facebook post that says, send me your addresses so I can send you invites. I don't see that.
That is lovely.
I'm not active on social media. But Suffs. I have to start out and take some accountability because I think in the weeks leading up to this, I was saying that Suffs talks about the suffragettes in the movement. And if you have seen the show, you will learn the proper term is suffragist because suffragette is what the newspaper and the media would do to make it look like, more cutesy girls and downplay the importance of it. So I will take ownership and responsibility and correct my grammar throughout this. So I apologize. And also Brad was like, hey, we should do Suffs together. And I'm like, it really worked out that Sage was able to go with me because I'm like, I think it would be a good idea to have a woman on this podcast.
2 white boys talk about women getting the right to vote.
Yeah. Hey, it's a better
perspective
trend than
never
2
seen.
White boys talk about cryptocurrency. That's what most podcasts. Yeah.
That's so true.
The white guys. Sports, cryptocurrency. That's what white guys talk about on podcasts. But
cars.
Cars, probably cars. I'm into neither cryptocurrency nor cars.
I
We
listened
have
to
talked
a lot of Animal Attacks. Oh, sorry. We should talk
animal
about
attacks.
Suffs.
Yeah,
That's my
we should
favorite
talk
podcast.
about women's rights. So Suffs, some history of the show and its creation and a little bit of backstory on it. So this musical, the music, the lyrics, and the book are all written by Shaina Taub. So same person. And she stars in it on Broadway as the leader, Alice Paul. She's only the second woman in history to do that. So that is a fun fact. I think it's also just very rare in general that you see the music, lyrics, and book are all written by the same person. Usually they have at least a couple collaborators pulled in there. But how this kind of originated, the idea, one of the original producers, Rachel Sussman, she had thought of the idea back when she was in middle school about a suffragist musical. And she later, from Shaina Taub, and gave her a copy of Doris Stevenson's book, Jailed for Freedom, that she wrote after the 19th Amendment was passed in 1920. Also, shout out Doris Stevens from Nebraska. So she's one of the key players in this musical. And so after reading the book, eventually Taub started working on this show. And it was originally titled Suffragist and was going to premiere in 2020. Then COVID hit and it got delayed. It premiered off Broadway in 2022. Then it opened on Broadway. It had previews in March 2024 and then officially opened in April and ran through January 2025. So not a crazy long Broadway run, but it was nominated for 6 Tony Awards, including Best Musical, which it didn't win, but it did win for Best Original Score and Best Book of a Musical. So Shaina Taub got 2 wins out of it. This national tour that we saw is the first national tour of it. It started in September 2025 and it runs through August of this year is when it's slated to go right now. They have shows announced. And the story of Suffs is about the suffragist movement in the early 1900s. And it follows the main character is Alice Paul, who started getting more heavily involved in 1913 and kind of taking a charge and taking her offshoot of NASA, which was the National American Woman Suffrage Association, which was having its 65th anniversary in 1913, which is just crazy to think about. And one of the things we take for granted nowadays, like you and I were talking before, I think it was at intermission, about just how this was an embarrassing blind spot for me. And it's not something that I remember really being touched on much in school growing up or anything like that. So this was a very eye-opening musical. And so it tells the story of Alice Paul and her offshoot group that ended up forming the National Woman's Party. And the battle primarily focuses between 1913 and 1920, which 1920 is when the ratification of the 19th Amendment happened that gave women the right to vote. So it entails the forming of the National Women's Party. It shows them being the silent sentinels after Wilson's re-election, and then leading to their silent protest outside the White House, leading to their arrest and imprisonment and basically torture and inhumane treatment in prison, and then finally getting out, the passing and the struggle to get the 19th Amendment ratified, and then Alice Paul immediately starting the push for the Equal Rights Amendment, which she proposed in 1923 and still has not passed. Well, there's some debate about that because like they had to get it ratified by 1982, and apparently in like 2017 they finally got 38 states to ratify it. And so people are like, it should be pushed through and officially ratified, but it missed the 1982 cutoff. There's debate around that, which is insane. So crazy stuff, sad stuff, but very enlightening and told in a, I don't know, I was gonna say entertaining way, but I don't feel like that's right.
Yeah.
Like, this was described beforehand as kind of like they were saying like it was a comedy musical. No part of
I
it
don't know
is a
about that.
comedy. There is a song
It's
about them getting,
lighthearted, I would say.
yeah, I would say that they do take some, they don't make it as dark as it could be.
Yes.
Like
Yeah,
what
it
the
could be
reality
worse.
was.
Yeah. The reality of
And
it all, yeah.
like I was seeing some reviews of it that were talking about like their time in prison, and they're like,
Yeah.
they didn't make that seem as horrifying as it
As it
actually
could
was.
be. Yeah.
And even then, there is the song that it is chilling, talking about how they were doing their hunger strike in prison and then forced to eat, and it was brutal and like degrading and just inhumane and just insanity. So very important musical. It's sad how important it still is today, if that makes sense. Not sad that it's being told more and the history is going out, but it's like this shouldn't be as relevant today
You shouldn't be
as it
relating
still
to it, yeah.
is. Yeah. So that's a little bit of backstory on the musical and what it is. And so, Sage, what was your familiarity with this musical? What were your initial thoughts on it? We'll get into our thoughts on the musical overall, and then we can talk about the tour cast some.
Because we did talk about the musical a little bit. I know maybe the week leading up to this, and you had been saying that you'd been listening to the music, having some troubles, like maybe getting too into it, because it is a very visual musical. I think that I personally had said, I'm not going to listen to anything. I'm going to go in blind, and I think that's the way that's going to be best for me. This is what I wanted to try, and I absolutely 110% feel like that was the best way to experience it, at least for me, just because I knew a little bit about some of the history. Like we said, both of us were learning new things. I know about the hunger strikes. I knew about some of the force feeding and, the parts of it that aren't as, digestible for people, but it was still something that I appreciated being able to like really get into the characters and kind of like see how everything was building along. I really appreciated that. And seeing how the scenes are played out, I think really helped me too. Because the music absolutely was amazing. But I said personally, like, it's just not something that I would listen to outside of that because it's such a visual thing. It's very beautiful to watch it actually play out. Once we got to the like kind of halfway point, we both were like, wow, this is like really something. Maybe we should have known more. And so it was amazing. Like, even when we were leaving, like, I was looking around and there were just tons of like parents with their kids and like plenty of like, I was like, you know what? Not the worst way to get your kid involved in understanding this situation a little bit better. And like we said, it's entertaining is just not the right word. It's engaging. Yeah. It's very engaging for you to be able to watch. And like, once they said like Doris Stevens from Nebraska comes into the picture, everyone was like cheering along because, we were obviously very stoked to hear our state. It was great. Mm-hmm. But it was something where I really, really loved like being able to get to know the characters, get to see how they play out. Because through the years and seeing how, each one moves on from the suffragist movement is just a very beautiful thing to see that, some people were keeping up and staying with this program and seeing Alice Paul move into the Equal Rights Act. And then some people saw this as, and now I need to find my new place. I think it was a very beautiful production. I thought it was amazing. But I guess, where do you feel?
I think kind of like you said, I started listening to the cast album probably like a week and a half before. I was behind when I normally am. And I was struggling to get into the cast album because something that I think is very cool that they do is all the roles are played by women, and even the male roles. And that works very well on stage. It makes listening to a cast album difficult to follow the characters sometimes, who's singing what for me. Because I mean, most of the time I was listening to it while I was driving or doing other things, so I wasn't putting my full attention on it. And I would say, because I've seen some comparisons to Hamilton, saying that like this is the next wave like Hamilton. And I think there's some aspects that it is and some that it isn't. It is in telling American history story that isn't as well known as it maybe should be. Well, this one definitely should be. The Hamilton one, I feel like the one thing that was weird for me, they're like, this is important, it's like the next Hamilton. And I'm like, I mean, there were a couple things like some of the immigrant stuff and some of the John Lawrence pushing for some of the equality, but that is a very smaller part of that musical. I would say this one has a much larger importance and historical reference point than Hamilton. Go ahead.
I would say that Hamilton is a very entertaining story, where this might be a more purposeful story. This might be a more teaching. Yeah.
Right. And I think that's something that they did very well with it too, because while it does have some swearing and there is like the prison stuff is kind of intense, it's due to the staging and the lyrics, what they're talking about. Like there's not anything brutal physically that you are seeing on stage. So I would say it's pretty appropriate for most ages. And so I think that's a way that they can get it told to more people. I was pleasantly surprised with the Proshot on PBS Great Performances. I thought, because they absolutely butchered and censored the Next to Normal one and it made me mad. I am like, what are they gonna do for the song Great American Bitch? That is a very like talking about kind of reclaiming that word. I'm like, how are they going to do that on here? They didn't censor bitch. I was so pleasantly surprised because I'm like, if they would have censored bitch, it would have taken all of that away. They did censor her out, so like you can't say goddamn, you can just say damn. So they censored, so there's no god, so they're just saying damn. And then the one where fucked, they took out the fucked, which makes sense. I think there's maybe a shit or two thrown in there that they took out, but overall, I was very impressed with this show, and I've talked about on here at length, and I mentioned it in this last week's Matt's Coffee Corner plug for new spinoff show there, that one of the reasons I enjoy musicals so much and what makes me like a truly great musical in my mind is when it can evoke some kind of emotion. And I think this does a great job at that, kind of showing the passing of time and passing of the torch, because it opens on Carrie Chapman Catt, who is the leader of NASA, kind of singing their approach that's let mother vote, and kind of the more prim and proper, not really threatening Alice Paul coming in and saying, hey, this isn't working. It may as well, I think they say state by state, like Carrie says that their motto is state by state, slow and steady, not until the country's ready. And Alice Paul says it may as well be state by state, slow and steady, not until we're dead. And kind of shaking that up. And then by the end of the show, it ends with a bookend in like the 1970s, when Alice Paul is still running the organization, running the phone bank for the ERA and trying to get that passed, and is then approached by a new woman who is with NOW, the National Organization of Women. And she says that they have 30 demands for Nixon. And Alice Paul is like, well, maybe try to do one achievable goal, and then realize that now she's in the era and kind of where Carrie was, kind of almost like still passionate and still pushing for this cause, but so kind of discouraged and just trying to settle for what we can get instead of pushing for what is right or deserved as much as you could be. And seeing that new generation and passing of the torch, I thought it did a great way of showing that. I thought that those were fantastic bookends to the show. So I really enjoyed that. And then the final number, Keep Marching, was a great finale and kind of call to action too. that I felt like talking about that there's still so much work to be done and so much to do. And I felt like it was very like motivating and empowering anthem to close out the show.
Yeah, I did appreciate that because there is some points this musical, like I said, it shouldn't be something where we feel, almost a kinship to be like, oh yeah, plenty of times I felt like I wasn't heard or like the things that we're asking for don't happen. But it's horrible to feel like it's all just repeating itself. You're always going to be asking for more, but to have a nice, more motivational ending, I appreciated that because it was kind of hard to see the ending of, Alice Paul finally getting the vote, getting everything set. And then, okay, well, there's this additional thing that we'd like Equal Rights Act. And then how long it takes to get to there. It felt like almost the beginning again, where we see Carrie, going, and this is our 65th year.
Yep.
Where you're like, wow, just continuing, just waiting and waiting and waiting. But, and
Yeah.
I appreciated a lot, like you said, seeing the new, younger person come into the area and be like, no, we're not just asking for one thing. We're going to ask for everyone all at once to be receiving the same rights. Because I do appreciate that they touch on a lot of, a lot of the characters that are African American women that have been, working through this fight just as much and not receiving the same, not even just level of recognition, but just not getting the right at the same time, having to keep on working, and just the disheartening kind of movement that it is. Working for something that you're not going to see the results of. But seeing the young people be like, we're not putting up with just one person getting the rights anymore. We're all going to have to be in on this. But I appreciated that. I do.
Yeah, that's something I thought was very well done too, showing with the initial march that Alice Paul was organizing and then getting basically threats from the Southern donors that if they let African American women march too, then they were going to pull their support. And Alice Paul telling them, well, we've made a delegation for you in the back so you can still be part of it. We need to look at the greater good and just wait your turn.
Wait your turn, which is, it was hard for me to hear.
You saw the air like get sucked out of the room from the other people there too. You're like, oh,
It's hard.
And I feel like "Wait My Turn," sung by Ida B. Wells, was one of my favorite songs of the show. Just that power and emotion of being told, like, constantly having to, she's like, I'm also here to advocate against lynching. For like that is still such a prevalent problem for my neighbors, my family. And they're all like, oh yeah, we support you in that, but go to the back of the line. And so constantly feel like you're always having to be the one making sacrifices. That was an amazingly powerful song. And our performance, we actually saw the understudy for Ida B. Wells on the tour. It was portrayed by Abigail Aziz on the performance we saw, and she had one of my favorite voices of the show in the night. The songs she sung were so powerful and emotional, and so like you said, them fighting for something that they weren't even going to fully get to see. Like that was one of the most heartbreaking parts of the show for me is after they get their ratification and then Mary Church Terrell and her daughter call Ida B. Wells to tell her that it passed, and they're so excited. And then Ida B. Wells just like the realization they're still not going to let us vote, just like they don't our men. And then just that heartbreak from Mary being like, I know, and then her daughter just trying to motivate her to still keep going and keep her head up. And so I was really glad they included that, because I think that is a very important
a very
part that
important
also
perspective
gets
on it. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I felt like it was I loved how emotional it was very empowering, absolutely, but also just so emotional, like to my core. As a woman, it's hard to kind of sit back and just understand the history that everything has gone through. And absolutely, it's not taught as much as it maybe should be. I think there's plenty of things I think we can all agree learning about Wilson, President Wilson, just pissed me the hell off.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, the woman that played him just made him just the most bumbling fool that it just helped so much in being like, I don't know, just the level of, it felt very, I'm trying to think of the best word for it. Because there's plenty of times where, in the places that I've worked and anything that I've done, as a woman, there's plenty of times where you're brushed off. And you feel like it's not a big deal. It's never a big deal. And it's something that you're supposed to move on from. So being able to see like Wilson just going on and on. Oh, and then next year we're going to try it. Don't worry. It was like, you know what? It's making me really mad and I understand why. And my favorite part in it had to be when they're giving the speech. Oh my God, I've got to remember it better. But where he's like, he's talking to Congress. I was about to give him a Trump voice. That was incorrect. I was going to do an impression. I was going to do a horrible impression. I was like, wait a second. Cut that out.
Let's cut it out. From Full House.
Wait, how do you do that? Do it again. Started it today.
Cut it out. I think that's how Joey does it in Full House. Did you ever watch Full House? He's the one who says it. But anyways.
Okay. Restart. When Wilson is talking to Congress and he's like, you know what? Like they said, oh my God, I did it again. I can't do it. I'm so sorry. Okay.
Women.
It's too real.
Want to vote.
Too real. And they want this.
I don't know they should.
No, I can't.
Make them have their passports.
Don't keep that in. Don't keep that in. Okay. I'm trying again. I'm ready.
It's staying in.
Okay. When Wilson is talking to Congress and he's with Carrie and she's kind of talked him into it. They've burned his like effigy in the front yard. And he's like, just so you guys know, the nice ladies, the ones who were nice, and they asked for this vote in the correct way. Those are the ones that I'm talking about for. I didn't even pay attention to those other gals. The ones that were acting crazy, I didn't pay attention. I know that women want this thing. And then Doris Stevens is like, he actually said that. Yeah. And I went, yeah, that is how it often feels. Just very much like, I loved how every single time he goes, I had never heard about this. No one ever told me about this. How did this happen? He's just playing dumb every single time. It reminds me of this very beautiful quote that I have in my phone of one of my friends trying to just remember something. And instead she looks at me, she goes, what is that thing that men do? The bare minimum. That's it. And she was just trying to think of the word. She wasn't, but she landed it. She was right.
Yeah.
But I thought the portrayal of Wilson was amazing. I was like, if you saw, I was like looking up before you started talking. I needed to know where Doris Stevens was from. But she's from Omaha, which is nice, right? A bigger city, but not bad. Not bad. Still Nebraska.
Yeah.
But
no. Wilson, I had a hard time. Wilson
really?
was played on the tour. We saw an understudy for Wilson too. We saw Meryl Pfeiffer on there, and she did a great job.
Oh my God.
And the Wilson's first introductory number is, I forget what it's called, but it's the ladies. We love our ladies. Yeah. And it's like him just like justifying. He's like, we're actually protecting them and helping them by not giving them this right. So they don't have to have that burden.
They don't have to worry about it. Yeah.
I didn't clap after the song. I'm like, I can't clap the villain song.
No.
It's the most like misogynistic song.
Yeah.
It was do that.
Great villain song. It was so perfect. It set him up so great to know what we were going to be in for. But
yes.
No, yeah. I did absolutely fall in love with our female characters though. I was trying to remember what the song is called. The one that all of them start to find a way. Loved it. Oh my God.
Yes.
That was a very, very beautiful. It's kind of when Alice Paul is like getting together her group and like building her team. It's absolute. The energy starts to like finally shift. Because when she's first talking to Carrie, It's a little hard. Yeah, I think the like first moment where I was like, "Oh my god, this is going to be a musical I need to pay a lot of attention to. This is going to really wreck me." Because it starts with like Carrie having her very beautiful, very prim and proper, opening number, and then she goes, "And we've been doing this for 65 years." And I went, "Son of a bitch! Oh my god, I didn't know that it was that long." And then finally, when you have Alice come in and she's like, "I'm going to shake things up," and she builds this team, it like really empowers you and you're ready for it all to like go her way. Oh my god, yeah.
Yes. Speaking of the team, I figured I'd call out who are the main players, because we've mentioned some of them. We've mentioned some of them. And I'm going to say who's playing them on tour, who we saw, because I want to give them a shout out, because I thought everyone in this cast was amazing. They sounded amazing. It's interesting. I don't know if you notice this. I'm a live theater now that like season tickets are like in row 5, seeing the facial facial expressions. I'm struggling with words tonight. Facial expressions. And it's one thing I noticed in the Proshot too, and a comment that I made. Stage acting is very different than film acting, because on stage you do have to like over exaggerate your facial features so the people up in the balcony can still see and connect to those emotions. And so there are a lot more animated movements and facial expressions. And so I think that's kind of cool to see up close. And there were times where it was a little off-putting in the Proshot, just because you're not meant to be seeing it right up in their faces. Yeah. But we've already talked Alice Paul, the leader of the National Women's Party, the main antagonist of this protagonist.
Yeah, I had a moment where I was like, wait, what did I call Wilson? Did I say Wilson was the hero?
No.
Take me out.
I said I can't talk tonight. Alice Paul, and I don't want it to be clip bad. Alice Paul is the protagonist of this production. Yeah, this was a whole plot for me, and be like, women, the evil women want to vote. I saw this as a villain. No. Alice, if that gets clipped, Sage is laughing, should tell you that was not serious.
It's a joke.
Alice Paul was played by Maya Kelleher on this tour. And then Carrie Chapman Catt, we referenced, was Maria Grandi. Inez Milholland. So I have to give a shout out to Inez Milholland in general. One thing that I thought was very cool. So Inez Milholland passed away due to health issues and anemia, and how hard she was campaigning to vote Wilson out. And her death kind of sparks the end of the first act, and they sing with "How long must we wait for liberty" to close the first act after Inez's passing. And Inez led the first march on white horseback, dressed like a knight. She says, like, the lyrics are feminine reclaiming of the armored knight. And they used the picture of the actual Inez Milholland in their headquarters, and actually to lower it to close the first act. And I thought that was really cool that they used that actual picture of her instead of a recreation with the actress, to still just cool ways to bring these things in and give these people their shine, these women who did so much. And so Inez Milholland was played by Monica Tulia Ramirez. Ida B. Wells, like I said, we saw the understudy, Abigail Aziz. Doris Stevens was played by Livy Marcus. Ruza Wenklaska was played by Joyce Mei Zhang, and she did a great job. Ruza is, my notes want to autocorrect Ruza to Runza.
Very Nebraskan.
Perfect. And so she did a great job. Like, she's the fiery activist, the Polish one that was striking for workers' rights, and so brings that energy to it and that kind of edge. And then Lucy Burns was played by Gwen Wood. Mary Church Terrell was Trisha Jeffrey. Phyllis Terrell and Robin was Victoria Peckle, which I have to give her a shout out. Her voice was amazing. And you don't get to hear her sing too much, sadly, but I like that was one of the voices that I was most blown away by. The little parts she had made it her own. Dudley Malone was played by Brandy Porter, and President Woodrow Wilson was played by Meryl Pfeiffer. And so they all did amazing. And so you had, like you said, that first song when Alice Paul is rounding up her and Lucy, who were field hockey buddies, and they round up Inez, and then Inez brings in Ruza, and then Ruja, and then Doris shows up to become their kind of secretary and note taker, and just kind of their scribe, and making the note, and then coming out with the book that she wrote. So now I want to check out the book. So I'm curious to hear more of the actual account. And so that might be the second book I read in a year.
In the year?
So I'm not a big reader. I don't.
It's May.
Yes, it is.
It is already.
I've only read one book so far. Yeah, it is. It is. But and technically I read a quarter of a book, but it was one novella within the book. But digress. Tour was amazing. The sets were amazing. The one thing that kind of about the staging, there's some songs that worked for me, some it didn't. A lot of the background is just a big like digital wall that they just have like a solid color on, and that worked so well in some songs where it was showing like the silhouettes of the people who came before and who fought for it. And I felt like there were a couple that worked really well. There were a couple where it was a little distracting, and like it was I'm like, we could have a more muted tone, but I don't know. There was something, just the big one color in the background, because it was during the march, so it made sense there wouldn't be a lot of things, but it was just a solid color and 2 columns, and that was it. And so it made it look very bare, and it was more jarring, I think, on the pro shot, because when it's in the kind of close-ups, you just see the people and then just orange behind them, no other parts of the staging, because that solid screen. So that was something that, like, it wasn't distracting, but it was just something I'm like, that's a choice. But it's interesting. I don't know how else they could have done it better. Like, you throw up a projection of the Washington DC street, I don't know. But do you have any other thoughts on the tour cast before I give my couple additional thoughts on the pro shot?
I don't think there's anything additional to add. Like we said, we were both like, once we were leaving, we could not stop talking about how much we had enjoyed the show, and how, like we said, it's something where it presented this story to us, this history of it, just in such a way that you're connecting with it, and you're able to kind of like feel very empowered in it, yes, but also understand the struggle and how it continues and how it keeps going, and how change is something that takes a very long time. And it can be extremely disheartening to see how long it takes. But, you know, being able to have those like small moments of accepting and feeling like these small wins, understanding them, like we talked about, you know, Great American Bitch, just a great way to finally feel, you know, it was always something where we as women, you'll talk about it, it's a very bad thing to be a good bitch, but you want to be a bad bitch. Everybody does. You know, it's a very nice way to put it, is just, so I would say it's something that I would recommend to anyone. I think that anyone could see this show and, you know, not just feel something, but also connect with it. I think it's an excellent production that we saw, you know, absolutely loved the tour, but also the story itself. Very important.
Yeah, I think people should check out the pro shot, like 100%. Go to PBS. I think it's just pbs.com. I think they lost their org. Maybe it's org. No! I don't know. No, it's org. It's org.
They lost their org?
Listen to me. No, don't listen to me. Google PBS Suffs. Just do that. I'm not going to direct you.
You'll find something.
I think one of the things, kind of like we talked about at the beginning, just the final thoughts from me of the show, was the kind of almost like embarrassment of how much realizing how privileged and how much it take for granted, not just for it to be in 2026, but as a man and a white man, how like I haven't had to deal with any of this shit. And so having that paired with not really knowing much about the story is kind of embarrassing. Like, you know what I knew about suffrage before this, really? I knew Mary Poppins when Mrs. whatever her name is, Banks, has her votes for women ribbon, and it's going, votes for women. That's like that.
Oh, no.
Like,
Yeah.
and so that's embarrassing to say. And so, like,
and not your
little
fault,
bit of
totally.
shame came with the musical. So I'm learning, I'm growing. Now, I want, even though I didn't know the history, I have always been a proponent of equal rights. I
Guys, I want you to know.
I wasn't like, man, these women. And now I'm like, oh, man, women are people. Like, I always held the stance for equal rights and that women are people.
I've always thought women were people. I wanted to be known.
Always. Yeah.
Which is
let it
crazy
be known.
that we've got to let people know. I think it was also beautiful.
People are
what
people.
is the song? People are yeah, all people are people. Which is should be a given. But that last song, what is it called when is it Tennessee is the last state that they're trying to get?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But they get the telegram in from the mother. Who is it? Is it a senator or a congressperson?
Yes.
I don't know the difference.
But yeah, let's not get into that because I'm not going to know either, and it's going to be embarrassing.
Yeah, we don't know, but it's Burns, I believe. Burns. So Burns gets a telegram from his mother, and that's what kind of like really changes his mind. And she's basically saying how, your father went off and fought in a war and he died, and I would have loved to vote and say that that's not something that I wanted to happen. But I was busy at home raising you. I couldn't be out there doing all these marches, and I was seeing these women, seeing all these people trying to make a change. And even from home, I knew that I wanted to be able to push this along as much as I can. And now you have this chance, and I'm so proud of you. You're holding this public office, and you have this 3-year-old daughter. Don't you? It's something where it's so beautiful to have, not just this perspective of, your mother is someone who is fighting for these rights, wanted to be fighting for these rights, and, was doing that in the way that she best could, teaching you these things. And now you have the chance to be on the right side of history and have your family down the line, because that was a very beautiful part of it, was just them talking about, I want my great-grandchildren to know that I was here. I was doing this. I was fighting for what you're going to have and not even going to have to think about, Made me want to go out and vote right away. But we have nothing going on at the moment.
Yeah.
But.
Yeah. Did our midterms? Not midterms. I did my mail-in ballot, but I did it like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
So I voted.
Good.
There's some election, the primary, that's the word I was looking for. Primaries. But a couple notes on the Proshot, and then we'll get into if there's other call outs for favorite songs. I thought as far as Proshots go, there's some that just get insanely liberal with how much they're cutting back and forth from camera angles. I thought this did it fairly well. It wasn't as choppy as some of the other ones. Like I said, the blank backgrounds and then the close-ups on some of the stage acting was a little times it was noticeable, but I was pleasantly surprised of the lack of censoring of bitch, like I mentioned earlier. And Nikki M. James as Ida B. Wells was amazing. She was one that was nominated for a Tony as Best Featured Actress in a Musical. So she didn't win, but she was nominated for it. And I was watching, I'm like, I recognize this lady. What do I recognize her from? She's in Daredevil Born Again on Disney Plus, which just had its great season 2 finale. She plays Kirsten McDuffie on that. So shout out Nikki M. James. But Proshot, highly recommend checking it out on PBS Great Performances. I do enjoy that PBS does that, even though some are heavily censored, just making them more accessible. And this one is one that you don't notice it as much. Like Next to Normal was distractingly censored, in my opinion. This one, it's very minor, and so I appreciated that. To close it out, I was just gonna call it my favorite songs from it. Were Finish the Fight. So the first one Alice Paul sings when she's getting stuff going, and then Wait My Turn by Ida B. Wells, then A Letter from Harry's Mother, the one that you talked about. I thought that song was amazing and powerful, and emotional. And then I Was Here, that you also referenced about them saying like, I want my daughter to know I was here. I want my great granddaughter to know I was here, that I worked on it. And then Keep Marching, the closing number. Those were probably my top 5 songs from it. There's like Great American Bitch is another one. That one is a lot of fun. Lovely. And so I did really enjoy that one. Amazing. As well. Yeah. This is, I think that's the other call. Like you said, it's not that there's a ton of effects going on, but seeing the people interact together and what they're doing, it is one that I feel like is more of a visual one to be able to fully appreciate it. So like I told you, this is I think you made the right decision waiting to listen to it until you saw it. And this is a great case in Brad's argument that you shouldn't just listen to the cast album. You should wait till you can see it, because I think that's true with this. And I think that's the other difference for me from this and Hamilton. Hamilton, like you said, is more fun and upbeat, and with it being sung through, this is close to sung through, but there's still a lot that comes through. But Hamilton is one that's a lot easier to listen independently, I feel like. But that could also just be my preference and my opinion as well. So any songs you want to shout out that you haven't already?
I think, like we said, the 3 that really hit me were Find a Way. Like I said, getting the team together was really beautiful. A Letter from Harry's Mom, like you said. Is that what it is? I'm switching back and forth.
Yes, A Letter from Harry's Mother.
Harry's mother, which is Mother's Day today. Happy Mother's Day to everybody.
Yeah, Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day. And then I Was Here. I think that it's a very beautiful and heartfelt production. It's amazing. But like we said, it's another level to see it in person. It's absolutely something I would recommend.
Absolutely. Any other, we kind of did final thoughts on the show at all. Any other last things you want to say, Sage? As a woman, you have the floor.
Thank you for letting me go first. I appreciated that. I guess what I would say is that I really do appreciate the movement that we've seen, having a lot of musicals recently, at least my perspective, move into like more historical tellings. I think that's a very beautiful way to kind of bring to light stories that we maybe don't have as much knowledge on, and maybe we should. Definitely we should. I'm going to change my comment.
I did that earlier.
We should be knowing these things. This shouldn't be something where you show up to a musical and you're like, wow, you're telling me that you were working for 65 years and nothing was happening, and you just were told to be patient and just keep waiting, and it'll probably work out at some point. I think it's something that was I loved to see that there were a lot of, families and children at this production. I think not only is it beautiful to see people enjoying the arts and showing their children this, but also teaching their children important historical events. I think that's a very, very important thing. I think that's the best part about this production, is that not only was it something that engaged with empowered audiences, but it was something where I would feel comfortable bringing my siblings to. I would feel comfortable, I think all of the families had a very good time and were able to also teach these very important stories. But
I don't really have anything to add. I thought I had something when you were talking, and now it's gone. So I agree. Great thoughts, Sage. You need a man to validate your thoughts now. It's not what I'm trying to do. That's what it seems like. I just shouldn't have done this episode.
This is a very serious thing. Yeah.
This is a very important musical.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I was going to say. Disclaimer. I did not do a ton of research before this, so I don't know how historically accurate it was, but I feel like the overall emotion and themes and message are the same regardless of, I'm sure there's some liberties taken. Obviously, there will be in these kind of retelling, but I think the heart of it is the exact same. The message is the same. The fight's not done. Keep hanging in there. Keep fighting. Keep marching on. And that's it. So, Sage, thank you for joining the podcast once again. I don't know what I'm going to do for the podcast next week, so you'll just have to tune in and find out for that. Matt's Coffee Corner is still going strong on socials. And when I say going strong, I mean we've done 2 episodes. So Instagram, YouTube Shorts, TikTok, all that fun stuff. You can check that out. You can subscribe to this podcast at Down Once More Pod on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Amazon Podcast, wherever you want to listen to your podcast. Go find it there. Go support us, follow us, comment, like. We like seeing interaction. It's fun. Tell us what you want us to talk about next. Is there another Proshot of a musical out there that we are missing and should take a look at? At the end of the month, I'm planning on doing Rockadoodle with Brad. So you got a couple months to find wherever that's streaming and watch that 80s, 90s, whenever it was, one of those 2, cartoon with a very spooky owl that scared my niece and nephew. Aww. So that will do it for this week's episode. Thank you all for tuning in. See you next time. And don't forget to go down once more. Later. This show on the road. After I keep coughing.
Keep that in the intro.
Yeah. It's like the opening. Well, yeah. Well, I don't know. Do you know who All Time Low is?
I know of it, but I don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, they have one of their songs, Dear Maria, Count Me In.
Oh,
one of the, do you know that song?
Yes.
Okay, well, that's what the opening is. And that's what
yours was a little more guttural than just that.
Yeah, mine was the opening of a Screamo song. Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Down Once More this is the inaugural national. I can't talk. I'm gonna start the intro all over again.
Take two.